mentioned my dad's old Remington Model 512 22 a couple of times. I know I had it in that post I did on the mushroom hunting, and got some input from a couple of different folks about me hunting mushrooms with a 22, and it was lost on me whenever I was editing that, when I was doing that whole thing, that it would sound like I was going mushroom hunting with a 22 rifle. But anyway, that's kind of funny. But so I thought I'd just do a quick little follow-up post, since I mentioned I'd tell more about my dad's 512. So growing up, guns were just a part of our immediate family heritage. We weren't huge hunters. Dad wasn't a big hunter. He taught us how to shoot, how to safely handle firearms, and he took us rabbit hunting, squirrel hunting a time or two, and we weren't deer hunters, we weren't turkey hunters, just small game. But anyway, we had 3 guns hanging up on the wall of my rural route home from my earliest memory until the day I left home in 1979. So from, and no doubt before my earliest memory, these guns hung on the wall. And we've got a couple of pictures. I'll try to find those, maybe include them in this, that'll show these guns. I know we've got some pictures somewhere in the family archives. But I was talking to Dad the other day about this gun, and he said he thinks he purchased it in 1953 or 1954. Now, this model 512 Sportmaster, Remington bolt action, tube feed, just a really great solid gun, solid stock. I think it's walnut, can't be for sure. It's got some kind of a light stain on it, but I believe it's walnut. And they made these from 1940 until 1962 on this exact model. They had variations they made for a few years longer, but on this 512 Sportmaster, they only made it for, what would that be, 22 years, I guess. And they made less than 400,000, actually a little bit less than 394,000, according to Wikipedia. And, there's 2 things that determine, well, really, 3 things that determine the value of a gun on an average. And it's how many of them did they make, and what kind of condition is the gun in. So you could have a gun that they didn't make very many of, but it's in raggedy old shape. It's not going to be worth near as much as one that's in better condition. And then it also, of course, just demand. I mean, is it a gun that people want? And I said 3 things. I guess there's 4. And then 4 is, of course, sentimental value. And out of the old family guns that we have, and between my dad and my 2 brothers and I can't speak for everybody for sure, but I don't think there's really any amount of money we'd take for any of the ones that have been around for a long, long time, any of the storied guns, if you will, and this old 512 certainly being one of them. Well, Dad said he ordered out of Sears and Roebuck. He lived in a little town in central Missouri, south central Missouri, and he said they had a couple of grocery stores there, and Mom was from a town a little bit bigger, just a few miles away. They would have had a hardware store or two, and probably at least a few different places to potentially buy guns, ammunition, that kind of thing. But Dad's hometown, there wasn't really any place to do that. So he ordered this out of Sears. He said he thought he paid about $50. After doing a little bit of research and looking at the inflation calculator, probably he paid more like around $30, $35. But 68 years ago, roughly 68, 69 years ago is a long time to try to remember how much you paid for something. But so anyway, somewhere between $30 and $50, was probably about $35. And he said he couldn't wait to get this gun. And I asked him how long it took for it to come in. I figured back then it would take a long time, like maybe 2 or 3 weeks or whatever. And it didn't. He said it came pretty quick, as best he could remember, maybe just a few days, and was delivered at his house, by whomever delivered back. I don't know if it came through the Postal Service or who it came through. Probably did. And back then there wasn't a federal firearms form to fill out. Guns didn't have serial number on them. In fact, I checked this gun over closely, and it doesn't have a serial number on it. And most, if not, well, I shouldn't say most, some guns didn't have serial numbers on them until that became a federal law. Sometime, I believe, in the 60s or maybe even early 70s, but I may have to do a little research on that. But this old gun, it's a dandy. Pretty cool to know that Dad got that when he was a late teenager, and went hunting with it. And again, I can still picture that hanging on on the wall of our family home growing up. Pretty cool memory. And I'm going to shoot it. It's snowing out there today. It's so wet and so forth, but I'm going to go ahead and take this out and run a couple of rounds through it before I do this post. and then I'll of course dry it off really good and oil it and then get it back to Dad. But yeah, cool. Remington Sportmaster, model 512, 22 long rifle. Actually, it shoots long rifle longs and 22 shorts. It holds between 15 and 22, depending on what length shell you put in it. But it's a dandy.
It was raining pretty good. In fact, it had been raining and snowing and a little bit of sleet in there mixed in it, and kind of unexpectedly, the weather app showed precipitation for sure, but I didn't think we'd get any. Didn't think it was cold enough to get any snow or anything like that at all, but we did. Anyway, I stood underneath the eave of the cabin there and just loaded in a few rounds and picked out my favorite stump. I've only got a couple of stumps down there, and picked out one of those stumps and just took a few shots at it there. Double checked it just to make sure there were no shells left in it. And as you can tell by the old thumbs up there, I was pretty pleased with the performance of that old 22. I've mentioned it before, but I never get tired of hearing the report of a 22 rifle. It's just reminds me of a lot of good times in the woods over the years. But I took that old gun out to the shop there and got some boiled linseed oil and wiped it down really good and almost messed up. I initially sprayed some of that combination gun cleaner and lubricant on the stock and started to rub that in. Then I remembered real quickly that that's a good way to take the finish off, so I wiped that off real carefully and put that linseed oil on there and rubbed that stock down really, really well, and ran a cleaning rod down through the barrel and lubed it up pretty good, and I'll get that back over to Dad, but with a good report that it's still functioning well after all those years in the closet. I don't know when the last time Dad shot it. I'll have to ask him. But we were talking about that old gun the other day, and he told me, was telling me about it, and he said he thought he put his initials or his name on the butt, under the butt plate of that old gun. So I took that butt plate off the stock there, and sure enough, don't remember how long ago Dad wrote his name on that butt of that stock, but no doubt probably shortly after he acquired that gun, after he bought that gun. But that's pretty cool to see that. And I put that butt plate back on there and finished wiping it down real well and checked it over. For being 70 years old, or almost 70 years old, the gun's really in good shape. It has just tiny little bits of I guess you'd call them slight rust deposits on it, a little bit of wear from use, which is normal. But that old gun's still in awfully good shape. Remington Sportmaster, model 512, 22. As the narrator in the movie Jeremiah Johnson said, you can't go no better. Thanks for tuning in, and I'm going to do my best to keep you posted on what's happening out here at the Squirrel Ranch.